And we're live. Welcome, everybody, here to the Lakers Lowdown podcast. I'm Anthony Irwin of LakersDaily.com, Lakers Insider for LakersDaily.com. Today on the show, we are going to be talking about that Kobe statue and the mistakes that were made there. And I think it's pretty reflective of some of the issues that the Lakers currently have as an organization. Also, while we're kind of talking about dumb mistakes and stuff like that, we're going to be talking a little bit today about mistakes that the Lakers can't make. And because, as I am recording, the games have all come to a close and the Lakers got no help tonight. So we're going to be talking about that as well. And then finally, we did get a bit of an update from Shams Charania of The Athletic about Gabe Vincent and a potential return there. So, yeah, plenty of stuff to get to. Starting with one of the dumber stories that you will see all year. So, the Lakers unveiled Kobe Bryant statue a couple weeks ago now, and people have been there was giant ass lines to take pictures with the statue in the next few months. They're supposed to unveil two more statues with different themes to them, right? And somebody finally read the fine print on that statue and took a couple of pictures of some typos that are written like in the most permanent ink that you can write in. Now, they can be fixed, and apparently they will be fixed over the next, however long it takes to fix them. But it's just such a such a unnecessary blemish to a situation that like should be very easy to get right. All right, we're gonna proofread the copy that is going to go up on this statue. Yeah, cool. Jose Calderon is his name is going to be spelled correctly in the box score of that 81-point game that is being portrayed in this statue. Yeah, totally. Von Wafer too. Yes, everything is going to be good. And no, like they screwed this up, and now you have all of the attention that comes from this. And it's a Lakers organization that I always say misses out on the margins or lets stuff fall through the cracks because it is such a thin organization. I tried to figure out who headed up the department on who did this. Linda Rambis is the head of, I think her title is like special director of special projects, which you would think this would fall under the category of, but the people that I talked to weren't willing to say specifically who it was, even if this felt like it, fell into her category. She apparently deals more with like player related stuff, like current player related stuff. But again, like even there, like as I tried to figure this out, nobody really understands with this organization who was supposed to be doing what, right? Like nobody understands, like, all right, so-and-so is in charge of personnel. So-and-so is in charge of the cap. So-and-so is in charge of statues. So-and-so is in charge of, season tickets and this and that and the other, right? But with the way that the Lakers kind of operate and with the number of people who do multiple jobs essentially in the organization, you have screw ups like this. And there isn't really kind of a buck stops here type person on this kind of thing. You would think that it would be Jeannie Buss, but like her having to go over copy on a statue feels a little beneath an owner, right? And yeah, it's an organization that needs to get its shit together. And I remember when LeBron left the Cavs the second time around, I kept on asking people who would come on the show back when I was hosting Locked On NBA. I would get people who, covered the Cavs back then and, were Cavs fans and stuff like that. And I would always ask, how confident are you that the Cavs organization is prepared for the post LeBron James era. And are they ready? Did they do any learning in terms of organization, in terms of expectations, in terms of, workflow, all of these things? Like, how confident are you that the Cavs are now better equipped to move on after LeBron moves on, however it is that he moves on? And at that time, it looked like there was a lot of noise, obviously, that he was going to the Lakers. And their response typically was like, well, we hope so. And I think there are, I think that there was some confidence in David Griffin. And then there was some confidence in some of the young guys and stuff like that. But for the most part, it was just like, I guess we'll just find out. And this is one of those situations where I find myself kind of saying, like, I hope the Lakers get their shit together better than this, and figure out the margins and the peripheries and those places that are very important. If the Lakers are going to like prop themselves up and operate financially as a mom and pop shop and basically as a small market team, then you better be fucking good at the margins, right? Like, if you are going to operate in this new era where you have owners willing to spend hundreds of millions of dollars beyond luxury taxes, then you have to be ready to compete with that intelligently by focusing on the details, by nailing all of this other stuff that in this case is like a perfect example of fucking up something that, like, you had no business messing up. And Kobe is this person. The entire reason Rob Pelinka holds the job that he does right now is because of the person whose statue you screwed up today, right? And it's just it was the kind of thing that, like, honestly, I kind of rolled my eyes at first and just kind of chuckled it off. But then the more that I thought about it, the more annoyed I got, because their execution of this has been pretty bad, right? The For one thing, the Lakers closed off the celebration of Kobe's statue to the rest of the public. That is very much a minority move. That is not something. They sold tickets to it on top of the season ticket holder, as if like Kobe is their thing to celebrate and only their thing to celebrate. And if you want to celebrate it with them, you have to pay for it. So that was a bad look, I thought, as well. And then on top of that, you unveil the thing, and now it has typos, and it's just like, you can't mess this up, man. Like, you only get one opportunity to get this right, and the Lakers didn't. Now they're going to go back and they're going to fix it, and I would imagine that the copy is going to be very clean on the next two statues that they put up for Kobe here, when those statues go up. But this is just, it's an embarrassing look for an organization that, like, is very much like, still has a lot of work to do to prove to fans and to minority owners and to shareholders that they aren't going to screw these details up moving forward, whether it affects your on-court product or your general branding. And in this case, Kobe, you could make a real argument, because of his untimely passing, is probably the most kind of sacred player affiliated with this team, or maybe even person affiliated with this team, and you screwed this up. It's just, it's so annoying. It's you get laughed at all day. Fortunately for the Lakers, it was NFL. It was the beginning of NFL free agency. So, like, most people's attention was elsewhere. But it's kind of like the very first episode of Veep, where they screw something up so bad and they go to the head of PR and they go, well, how are you going to handle this? And he goes, well, we could just sit tight and hope that somebody more important than us dies. I think Tom Hanks was the example. And it's like, that's your method to dealing with these things is, you're going to keep screwing up, and then you're just going to hope that a bigger screw up or a bigger story pops up somewhere else that, like, you now look better, or you don't look as bad because the focus isn't on you as much. And the more that you think about it, the more that you look at this organization, it is episode after episode after episode of Veep. It is episode after episode after episode of Succession, where they make fun of Nepo babies and how thoroughly they screw up all of these things after daddy passes on. And uh this is where you find yourself if you're a Laker fan. Now, in terms of actual basketball, there was a lot to be played tonight, and the Lakers got zero help. The Suns beat the Cleveland Cavaliers 117-111. The Dallas Mavericks beat the Chicago Bulls 127-92. The Golden State Warriors beat the San Antonio Spurs 112-102. And then, like in games that don't really matter, the Nuggets came back and beat the Toronto Raptors. So if you're a Laker fan and you're hoping that the Lakers would gain some ground on an off night, did not happen. And I do think that the kind of moral of the story here is that the Lakers can't afford to mess around with their food and lose some of these dumb games and hope that they get bailed out with help from elsewhere around the league. You look at the teams that they're competing against, it's not just about getting to the 10 spot, right? Their spot their place in the play-in is pretty secure, especially now that Şengün is now probably going to miss a good chunk of, if not the rest of, this NBA season with that bad ankle sprain. So the Lakers are probably pretty safe when it comes to cementing their place in the play-in. But they have said basically since the All-Star break, their goal is to climb out of the play-in and get to the playoffs without having to play any of those extra elimination games. You just never know what's going to happen in a one-game setting, especially when you're playing against the likes of Steph and Luka and and the other teams that are there with them in that grouping. I think the Kings are also there. It's like the Kings or the Suns, basically. And yeah, you're hoping on a night like tonight with a few teams competing and you being able to sit back, having won a couple in a row, that you'd get a little bit of help. But yeah, so the New Orleans Pelicans sit currently at 39-25. Then there's a big gap from them to the Clippers, who have 22 losses. The Phoenix Suns have 27 losses. The Kings have 27 losses. Dallas has 28, and the Lakers and Warriors both have 30 losses. Though the Lakers have played 2 more games than the Warriors, and therefore currently sit ahead of them at the 9 spot. And they're trying to climb out of, especially the 9 or a 10 spot, and hopefully into that 6 spot. Now you have to make up 3 losses in a very limited amount of time. The Lakers have played 66 games this year, so you don't have a ton of time to make up those 3 losses. And in all likelihood, the Lakers are probably going to be sitting in that range and in that area of being in the ideally 7 spot. If you're not going to get out of the play-in altogether, you want to be in the 7 spot, so you only have to win 1 home game, and then you move on, and you don't have to play the best team in the conference record-wise. But that's a lot of work, and it's a lot of work for a team that, much like we just talked about with the organization, does tend to screw up games that you don't have any business screwing up, right? They went to overtime against Washington. They had to play against a thoroughly depleted Minnesota team all the way up until the last 4 minutes or so of that game. They lost to the Sacramento Kings again, and they have lost, to the Brooklyn Nets, and they've lost to the Memphis Grizzlies this year. It's a team that messes around a lot, and the hope is that they don't find out, right? The fuck around, find out theory, or concept. This is a team that has done a lot of the former, and you got to hope that they don't suffer as much of the latter. And on a night like tonight, it's just another great reminder that the teams that they are competing against are legit. Golden State, Dallas, Sacramento, Phoenix, New Orleans. Those have been good basketball teams this year. And you can't rely on them hopefully losing enough to not just make up for the games that you are already behind right now, but also make up from any kind of dumb losses as you try to climb out of your current place in the standings. So, frustrating as the night might be, I do think it sends a pretty good reminder to us and hopefully to the Lakers that you got to take care of your business whenever you possibly can, because this conference is going to be a monster to deal with, whether it's dealing with it, getting out of the current spot that the Lakers find themselves in, or as they try to compete with those teams in the actual playoffs, should they make it there. I'm going to go to a super comment here now that I'm seeing it. Brandon Omeng drops another one, so that means I get to play this. I'm going to do it again. Why not? It's important stuff, We got to focus on the important stuff here, and saying "fuck Boston" is a very important part of my job. Anyway, Brandon writes, "Is it me? Or does Darvin start to coach with common sense towards the end of the season? Is Gabe Vincent coming back a good thing for us? No four guard lineups, please." So I'm going to talk about Gabe here in a bit. And that first point is an important one to make, because the hope basically is that all year Darvin has been really kind of working on finding out what he can about this team. And then as you get into that part of the season where your seeding gets decided, and then when you finally start competing in playoff settings, you go to your meat and your potatoes, right? You butter your bread and you take care of business however you have to, and you stop playing lineups that had never played with each other before. And that's at least the hope. We saw that last year, though. I think the improvement that the Lakers made last year had a lot more to do with no longer having Russell Westbrook on the team. This year, we've seen him go to that starting lineup, and I don't know if it's a matter of they always knew that they were going to arrive at the starting lineup, or if it was forced on them by circumstances and by results. But regardless, I know I always am going to harp on process, right? I know I am always going to, point that stuff out, because to me, process is always a very good indicator of future results. And, after this season is over, I will look back on this process, that goes into the lineups that they lean on here to close the season, and the lineups that they lean on in the postseason, and all of those things, and how they got there. And that'll be its own kind of offseason conversation. But now you just got to win. It's the Al Davis thing. Just win, baby. I don't care what it takes to have arrived here. That is a completely separate conversation. To me, you just got to win. And what that looks like, and kind of the stakes and all that stuff, we will be able to discuss that at later dates. But in terms of the process that Darvin likes to go through, we've only dealt with the guy for 1 year, and we know that there are certain things that he will be drug kicking and screaming away from, right? As an example, playing too many guards. It's always going to be a fight to pull him away from so many guards, to be able to rely on some of his bigger guys, whether it's bigger wings, whether it's whatever it is. He is always going to be, it's like those horror stories, right? Or horror pictures, where the monster is dragging the person out of the room, and you can see their nails, kind of scraping the wood floor, and you can see the wood coming up, from the wood floor as they are drugged from that room. I always thought to myself, man, that seems like it hurts a lot more than they let up on right there, right? it's a clay thing. It's something that you like. It's obviously a movie trick or whatever. But I just keep thinking about splinters. I know you're probably about to get eaten by some terrible monster there, but like that is not the way I want to be introduced to this monster. I don't know if there's a good way to be introduced to the monster, but I certainly don't want to be drugged and like die basically with a whole bunch of splinters. Or like if I don't die, now I have to deal with all the splinters underneath my fingernails there. That just seems terrible. But anyway, that's basically what Darvin Ham is like. That's what it feels like when the Lakers play these big lineups. It's like, okay, fine, I'll listen to you, I'll play those groups, and we'll see how it turns out. And then like it turns out well, it's like, okay, we'll do more of it. And with Gabe coming back, and I'll talk about him here in a second, that is something that I am certainly very nervous about. But in terms of like the way that Darvin likes to operate, I frankly don't know. Like it's been so. All right, I'll say this. I know that this is going to come off as kind of sour grapes on my part because it was a report that I eventually missed on. But I've always said that the time that I reported that the Lakers were finally going to go to their starting lineup from the Western Conference Finals last year, um, like I had that correct, and then Darvin changed his mind. And the reason that I know that I have that way is because all year I have been told that this guy, will come to some type of notion about a lineup to start the game in the morning, and then he'll have another one in the afternoon. He'll have another one late afternoon, and then he'll finally land on the actual one, however close to game time, right? It's like when I reported that the Lakers were going to play that all wing lineup, I was told by people there in the organization, you have this right now. However, he changes his mind. So welcome to Sweat Town, buddy. And like I just spent like the next, 24, 48 hours or so sweating out this guy potentially changing his mind. And eventually we saw how that looked like when he changed his mind and didn't play this current starting lineup when I thought that they were going to. And here we are. So I can't really speak to process and how Darvin likes to do things because we just don't know. There's no way to know at this point. I meant to make this point earlier, and it kind of came back to me while I was talking about Darvin, but the idea of like process and results and looking back, I want to look back at the end of the season at some of the places where the Lakers screwed up on the margins. One potential place that they screwed up on the margins was as it pertains to some of their injury exceptions that they could have potentially had this season that they never applied for, right? Whether it's with Gabe, and maybe they have thought all along that they were going to get this guy back. There's been enough kind of questioning if they'll be able to get this guy back from enough people within the organization that makes me think like you may as well apply, right? And if you have to give it back or whatever, if you have to cross that bridge again later, or if the NBA decides that no, this guy will eventually be able to play, then okay. Same goes for Jared Vanderbilt. I think it was kind of tough with timing because of when he suffered this latest injury or whatever, and that made it difficult to apply for that exception as well there. But given the situations there with Gabe and with Jared Vanderbilt, it does feel like a missed opportunity to not at least apply for those injury exceptions. And that either helps you financially or it allows you to add to the roster again. And the Lakers, basically decided to pass up on those opportunities for whatever reason that they wanted to. Some of it has to do with them hoping that those guys would be able to return this year. Some of it, might have to do with just screwing it up and letting it fall through the cracks, as we have seen with other minor details on Rob Pelinka's watch. So just something to keep in mind as we hopefully learn more about Gabe Vincent, as we hopefully learn more about Jared Vanderbilt this week. That could be an opportunity that the Lakers missed along the way. All right. The last thing I promised you that I was going to talk about here is Gabe Vincent. According to Shams of The Athletic, uh, Gabe is kind of targeting the next week or so. He has started ramping up his conditioning. He is hopefully to get back out, hoping to get back out onto the court here pretty soon. And he is hoping to, get back into the rotation here shortly thereafter. I am still told that it's like a wait and see kind of thing from the people that I've talked to about the situation. Remember, earlier this year, Shams, ironically, reported that Gabe is going to make his return to the lineup, and it kind of came out of nowhere, right? There wasn't much ramp up. It was just like he throws at the bottom of one of his kind of informational pieces. Oh, by the way, this guy might be coming back here pretty soon. And I said it on the show. I said, I'm not hearing that. And what I have heard to this point is that, you know, cautious optimism that he'll be able to return at all, let alone that he would be able to return in the next week or so and stay healthy. And as it played out, Shams was wrong about the game that Gabe would eventually make his return to. Initially, it was reported he would play in New York against the Knicks. He wasn't able to. And then Gabe plays in the next game, doesn't play very well. And then after that, we found out that he needed surgery, right? So the way that like the information flow here is its own red flag by itself. And then, to arrive here where the Lakers picked up Dinwiddie, and they picked up Dinwiddie, and part of the explanation that Rob himself gave, well, there's a Freudian slip. Part of the explanation that Rob gave at the time was that they needed to pick up Dinwiddie because they weren't sure about Gabe's potential return. Well, now they have Dinwiddie, and they already have too many guards. We've seen Darvin play too many guards in the rotation, and now they're potentially going to be getting one of those guards back, somebody who I would imagine expects to play. So I, to be completely honest, I have no idea what to expect here. I legitimately don't. We'll see what this looks like, and we'll see what the rotation looks like. But Gabe wasn't good earlier this year before the injury stuff started popping up. And then on top of that, like the shooting numbers that the Lakers signed him for were outliers at the time. This was something that I mentioned and got a lot of shit for, because I was like, hey, if he isn't that, I don't know how useful he is going to be to the Lakers. And lo and behold, we saw how that kind of played out. But then he's been hurt with a lower body injury all year, which affects your conditioning that much more, affects your rhythm and all of these things. And he would be coming back at this point of the season where every possession is high stakes and every game is high stakes. I think the Lakers are going to give him an opportunity to go out there and play if he is able to return. And I think they'll see what they got, and they'll see if he's able to, at the very least, knock down some open outside shots. But I think for the most part, he is not going to be counted as part of the rotation moving forward. And if he is, then, we just saw the Lakers start playing more of Jackson Hayes and Anthony Davis together. We saw a game, a couple games ago or a few games ago where, again, it was a few games ago. The Lakers were beating the Sacramento Kings with their starting lineup, played too many guards. Sacramento gets back into it and then runs them off the court because Sacramento's guards are better than the Lakers guards. And that is something that the Lakers really have to avoid here moving forward. So I personally would be pretty surprised if Gabe Vincent figures into this rotation in any big way here moving forward, not just because of, the information that I have on the situation, but also, and very importantly here, because of just the situation that he's walking into. It's a really tough one. And I understand, because he's a competitor and he wants to get out there and he wants to help this team and he wants to prove that he wasn't a sunk cost immediately. But at the end of the day, the Lakers and Darvin Ham, they're going to have to focus on the things that help the Lakers win basketball games. And to this point, even when he was healthy, Gabe wasn't that. He wasn't helping you win basketball games. Remember, it took like a few weeks for him to knock down his first official 3-pointer of the Lakers season. He was not good. And then he got hurt. And now he's missed all of this season. I sincerely hope that Darvin isn't like, writing his name in anything more than like a lightly sketched pencil that is very easy to erase from the rotation, because otherwise that could really throw a monkey wrench into a team that is finally starting to figure out and get back to this identity that, again, Darvin keeps on having to be pulled kicking and screaming towards. And they can't afford to screw up. Yeah, like, Brandon here with another super comment. He's saying that I can already see a Gabe Vincent, Austin Reeves, Spencer Dinwiddie, Taurean Prince, AD lineup, right? I mean, they've already done something like that with D'Lo, right? Like they've played Taurean Prince at the 4 because there's this like undying desire to get Taurean Prince onto the court. And now all of a sudden, if you add another guard that Darvin wants to trust to that, now, you're running out of places to play Taurean Prince. Does that mean he squeezes more minutes from Taurean at the 4? Now, the good thing there is that, like, if you try to do that, you're eating into LeBron's minutes and you're eating into, Rui, as he is playing some of his best basketball of the year the last couple games. So, hopefully those guys, especially LeBron, is so important that like Darvin is already talked out of it by the notion of cutting into LeBron's minutes. But you know what, man, he's done so much dumb stuff over the last couple of years that I can't fully trust that he's going to handle this as well as he possibly could. All right, that is going to do it here for this episode of the Lakers Lowdown podcast. We have a couple fun episodes here to round out this week. We have the Lakers in action, to let's see, not tonight when you guys are listening to this, but tomorrow, as they will be playing Sacramento in Sacramento. That'll be a huge game against a team that you really need Anthony Davis to get his shit together against. And yeah, we'll see what all of that looks like. So until then, and until the next time you guys hear from me, I'm Anthony Irwin saying have a great rest of your day. Make somebody else's. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. Hit that share button. Tell your friends. Tell your friends to tell their friends. Tell your family. Tell your family to tell their family. Well, they're also your family. You're also their family. You know what I mean. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.